If you look at it at a broader spectrum, some of the schools describe about the 16 aspects of the Four Noble Truths, which Buddha told in the first time. The Four Noble Truths have 16 aspects, which is being taught in the existence school. In the truth of the suffering, there is suffering, impermanence, emptiness, and selflessness. In origination of the suffering, there's cause, origination, intense arising, and condition. And the truth of the cessation of the suffering, there is peace, cessation, perfection, and true deliverance. In the path leading to the cessation of the suffering, there is path appropriate, effective, and truly delivering. So, like this, there are 16 aspects to it, and to these schools, there isn't much teachings about the voidness or even the absence of I. This school talks about aspects of the existence. So during the time of Abhidhamma, so at the time there were elements of the wisdom and also the basic elements for survival. So they thought there are basic elements for water or others. And during the time of Abhidhamma, they divided the Four Noble Truths into 16 different aspects, and it's going to take long time to explain them in detail. So I'm going to explain in a summary. First, in the truth of the suffering, we have the life itself, the existing itself. It leads to suffering. In this, there are four. First, we have impermanence. First, impermanence is the first of the suffering. So we know that there is nothing that exists forever. That's why we say it's impermanence, and that's why it is suffering, and so it leads to emptiness and it leads to selflessness. So here there is suffering, impermanence, emptiness, and there is selflessness. So it doesn't say voidness, but it says there is the being which is not I. And in the truth of the cause of the suffering, it starts of the origination of the cause, and there is intense arising and condition. And in the truth of the cessation of the suffering, there is the peace and cessation and perfection and the true deliverance. So they exist in a way that is a little complicated for us to explain. So there is a being that exists, and also there is a true deliverance that departs from everything. And in the truth of the path leading to the cessation of the suffering, there is a path, and there is the appropriate and effective and truly delivering. But these schools, they do not teach about voidness or absence of I. So this is the flow of those schools. So So there is no property that has the that claims for the existentialism, but in order to explain in detail, then I have to explain to you about Hinayana. But and I don't think there is much need for me to explain about the part of Hinayana that has not been proved. So let's just proceed with this. Some of the scriptures that contains Buddha's teachings, some of them are not those which you can understand them literally. So there are some scriptures which is impossible for us to take them as it's written. Although it is written so, if we don't look into the meanings in a more serious manner, then there are things that we cannot understand. And those types of scriptures, we categorize them with the distinctive teaching method and also experience teaching method. But the decisive teaching, as you say, the ultimate teaching, we cannot know with the sayings that has been passed down, especially the properties, especially the things written in the Diamond Sutra. These are things that we cannot really feel, but they can only be experienced, and so they have to be led by one person to the other, or else there are many difficulties. And so it is difficult to take them as they are. But those parts which we can take them as a concept, we call them as the exoteric or illustrative teaching. The distinct teachings are those which are explained very directly, but those expedient teachings, they cannot be just understood if we just take them literally. Well, the explanation of this could be done with the help of the question that has been asked before. This is it is the kata or the hymn of the Enlightenment. The stone person with the eye, the person made by stone, the person carved by stone with eyes. Is it possible? It is not possible. And so if you try to understand it literally, then you will ask the question, what is the thing? The stone, a person with eye. But the stone statue, the stone human with eye, it was shedding tears. Literally, it is like that. Well, someone asked question, and I think it befits this, so I'm going to answer together. The boy who does not speak, he sighed. Is it possible to sigh or show the grief when the person doesn't speak? So the stone statue with eye was shedding tears, and the boy, but actually you can also understand it as the boy without mouth. Uh, he was he was grieving. He was grieving. Can you understand this? It's difficult to understand. Riding the wooden horse in an upside down. Can you also understand? When you want to ride a horse, you have to sit upright, but you wanted to run on the horse, but for that you are riding a wooden horse, and the horse's feet is headed towards the sky. From a big red flame, there was another flame, and a cold wind blew. They asked for explanation of this to me. Please explain this verse in an easy manner. But actually, this verse, if I try to explain this, it doesn't have much benefits because this verse is written in order to create doubt. So this becomes a topic to question: how can a stone person have an eye? And this is done in order to make you stop thinking, but if we give you explanation, it doesn't help much. So this part, even amongst the methods, this is not something that can be logically explained and understood. We call this like a secret recording, just like the president's records that we preserve them, and we are not allowed to open them for a few years, and we classify them as the first grade secret or the second grade secret. But well, sometimes they also become problems if they take them out without the prior approval. For example, if I say I'm the king here, and the king writes a letter, and he sealed it, and he made sure that no one can open it. And the person who delivers it, he rode the horse, and so he delivered the message to the person, the recipient. Then the recipient will open it. So it's a secret letter. So the messenger who is carrying the letter, even the person is not aware of the content. And that's why so that's why the spoken phrase here, we call it, it raises a doubt, but the answer does not lie with the doubt. but it causes the doubt, and the doubt prolongs, and at some point of time, when the agony disappears, when the border shows that the agony has disappeared, that is actually the result. So before that, even if you want to answer the question, you cannot answer, and that is the basic principle of this the spoken head. Even when you recite the mantras, when you repeat them religiously, then there is also a part where you feel a little stuck, and also, but you just have to continue. And if there's a part that your agony disappears, if there's a borderline, well, that borderline is the motive and also the result of why you recite the mantra religiously. But the reciting the mantra is just a method to achieve that result. So I'm going to give a little explanation of this. If I give you too much explanation, then this will not be helpful to you. They're talking about the distinct teaching here. So the stone person with the eye, it refers to the person whose agony has disappeared, and that person is not affected by affection. So the stone person refers to saint who can see and feel and watch everything as they are. So the tear is the tear of compassion for those ancient beings. But if we serve in this way, that could also create problems. This itself, this could also mean the person whose agony is fully gone is wishing for the betterment for other sentient beings. And the second verse refers that the people who have actually who have already achieved the enlightenment, when they see things, for them everything that they see is reality, and for them they have got nothing to say. And the third line, where you're riding the wooden horse in an upside down, and you took another round, this refers to all the agony and delusion that we have right now. It all began from ancient time, and all the things that we think about, they are the cause of the suffering. So we all live in a darkness with our selfishness, and unless until you turn that upside down. And here it could also be interpreted as, since you do not live your life as other sentient beings, with mere sentient beings. And the last line says, even amongst all the flames or all the distortions, you live in a life in a very cool and easy manner. So the last line is, although everyone is in the agony, there's a cold wind that passed by. So at the borderline of the enlightenment, they're explaining the state of the enlightenment. So if we want to interpret that manner, well, I could explain in further detail, but the motive here is, for example, if we say Namu Amitabha, they start. There's no need to interpret word by word. You just have to try to focus your heart at some point. If you keep adding up other body to it, then you will not be able to concentrate, and you will not be able to achieve what you actually wish for. And if it's not namamitabha, but if you recite Konsenbosal, the focus here is on the concentration. And like that, even this distinct teaching or expedient teaching, the distinct teaching are those which we can know with the explanation, most of them. But the expedient teachings are those which are difficult to understand with explanations. Of course, there are letters written about it, like since the Buddha's light is bright, but we have not seen them in person and we have not even touched them and we don't know what they are. But we just assume that we know them with our thought. So there is a Virojana Buddha just like that. We just know it with our thoughts. And just because we know it from our thoughts, does it mean that we know them in reality? It is not that we know them in reality. That's why, for example, when you're eating food, if we say that's the right thing, although we know that by our thought, but it's same as when we don't eat, we are hungry. So we identify them as distinct teaching and expedient teaching, and even the coining of these words are different for each school. So my school takes the teachings as literally, but they do not take the explanatory teachings as literally. So regarding this, there isn't the need to study them in detail.
유식학파들은 대체적으로 요의 부분은 그냥 별 비판 없이 받아들여요. 근데 불요의 부분은 굉장히 이제 분석을 많이 하죠.
The mind school, they take the distinct teaching without much criticism, but the expedient teaching, they analyze a lot. In the middle way school, the tantrika of the middle way school take the decisive teachings literally, and they take those decisive teachings as the ultimate truth and also the direct teaching conditions. And because of this, they have been able to study a lot for the voidness, and they also understood the ultimate truth and also the voidness as the target of your argument or debate. And amongst them, even the Nagarjunas, the middle way became the target of their debate. Other than this, all the teachings of Buddha, we segregate them as explanatory teachings. 이제 그런 논의의 대상으로 삼은 것이 용수보살의 그 중론 같은 경우가 There are many different teachings of Buddha, but with the rest of them, they are explanatory teachings. When Buddha teaches about the essential things or the nature of those essential teachings, he speaks in a very powerful and a very simple manner. But when he tries to teach in a common way, then he does it in a very fine and very minute and detailed manner. Well, actually, two of them have to be together, but if you only do it in an explanatory method, then it only you tend to miss out the analytical ones. But if you only look at the essential or the nature of the item, then they only talk about the nature of them and they do not give much explanation. That's why you need to have both of them. You need to have the both characteristics while teaching. In order to check the find voidness, which is ultimate truth, you have to follow the scriptures and also the Abhidharma Sastras that discusses about the voidness. So 공성에 관한 것을 갖다가 이제
이 사실 공성에 관한 논의 자체가 아주 궁극적인 논의거든요. 그러니까 그 부처님께서도 이 논의를 갖다가 21년 동안을 갖다가 법문을 하셨어요.
The discussion about the voidness is actually an ultimate discussion, and Buddha spoke about this for 21 years. For a very long time, he spoke about the voidness, and he spoke the sutras, which are more than 600 copies, and also the Nagarjuna even both the schools, whether Tantrika or Prasakita, they're not able to discuss about the voidness properly. How is the human psychology, and also
대단히 분석을 심하게 하는데 그러나 이제 그 대성의
and also about the human nature, the study of the mind school is great. They have done it in such a detail.
논의를 갖다가 이제 시작해서 거기에 대한 그 주석이 많이 나오죠.
But when it got passed down to the middle way school, they started having the direct discussions, and on that they started growing more citations or connotations on it.
아니면 결정적인 내용인지에 따라서 적절하게 이해해야 됩니다.
It is right to follow the sutras or even the Abhidhamma Sastra as well. Finally, you have to understand them in an appropriate manner, whether the sutras require the explanation or whether the content is already decided. So when you look at the sutras, understanding that, oh, this is something that we just have to understand, or if this is something that Buddha spoke in a direct manner, and so rather than understanding or explanation, if you have to take them directly, there are also some contents like that. And for the contents like that, if you're able to understand the explanatory analysis, then it will be better if you can just take the essential contents, but that will be perfect if that happens. But even if that doesn't happen, you should be prepared to take them as they are, even if you're not able to understand it in that manner or direct manner. Of course, in the beginning, it is not easy to identify, but if you follow the great teacher's classification, then you'll be able to understand which is already ultimate content or which requires further analysis. And if you study one by one, then you can gain a proper understanding of the voidness. So if this is a content that is distinct, or if this requires expedient teaching, if you analyze them well, then it's easy. But if you're not able to understand them, you can also see if the evil or goodness existed. But if you go into its essence, then there is no reason to. There is no distinguishment between the evil and goodness. So if you look at the essence, then there is the evilness, and from that you have to identify the goodness. But actually, the study of this is not, or if you argue about this, then it is not correct. But if you go a little deeper, then you might question, aren't the goodness and the badness two different things? But if the common people and Buddha are two different beings, then Buddha cannot give benefits to the humans, and also the humans, they cannot become Buddha. If we say there are two different beings and they have two different identities, if there are two different beings and the two different beings cannot influence each other, and there will be no meaning behind them. Isn't that so? But if the common people and Buddha are not two different beings, well, we cannot say they're identical, but well, they are also not two different beings. Well, not the same and two different beings. They are also different. It's also a classification. So the common people can become Buddha, and Buddha exists for the goodness or for the benefit of human beings, and so Buddha started speaking about the thing that two beings are not different. Agony also arose from my heart, and also the enlightenment also arose from my heart. So the agony and also enlightenment is not different, but it is not easy to understand them as they are different, because for us we have already identified or distinguished between the two and just understood as two different beings. So Buddha spoke about this for 2 years, and before this he spoke 8 years about the goodness and badness. But when he started speaking or teaching about the prana, as you know in prana paramita, there comes the wisdom and there comes all other things. So if you say it doesn't exist, like the wisdom doesn't exist, the body doesn't exist, and if we keep saying that things don't exist, it's also not easy to understand or explain them. Well, like paramita, although we try to analyze because you are not understand them, but if you are able to study them or observe them as they are, then it's really good. The main theme of the voidness is that it does not exist and there's no eyes, nose, or even the mouth. So I don't think it is something that has to be I don't think it is something that needs a great understanding or the essence. So Kamlashila said it's very important to study both distinct teaching and also the extant teaching sutras. In Korea, we do not try to study the experience teaching, but we only try to study the distinct teaching. So, like whether is we only try to study the studies about the distinct teaching, like Diamond Sutra. That's why we have gaps for the study of expedient teaching, and because of this, even the wall of ideology or the explanations is difficult to explain. Well, even the stone statue was shedding tears, and well, if you just say this in a direct way, there isn't many people who are able to understand them. Well, knowing the content or having the idea is also understanding, but they don't even know why that has been spoken in the first place. That's why it is a serious problem. Now the content is speaking about or discussing about the normal preparations for the samatha and vipassana. So when you actually enter into real practice of samatha and vipassana, how do you have to do the prior or pre-preparation? The yoga practitioner well, as spoken before, if you study Buddhism as a practice, then it is we call it yoga practitioner. It does not refer to the exercise form. Well, even that is that the body exercise is lower level even amongst the yoga. So it is something that you play with the body. So it only helps with the healthiness, but from that you cannot gain enlightenment. But
위해서는 좀 할 필요가
those
있고
exercise
실제 여기 요가 수행자라고 하는 것은 무상 요가예요. 다시 얘기해서 정신적 해탈을
they help a little.
요구하는
Maybe they help a
요가
little
수행자를
the
얘기하는 거예요.
healthiness of the
요가
body
수행자는
while
언제나
practicing.
성생각과 의견을
Well,
취하고 가까이 하지 않으며
the actual yoga is
먹어야 합니다.
the
이게
actual
이제
yoga is
음식을 먹는
for the
거예요.
purpose
다시
of the
얘기해서
enlightenment.
수행자
Yoga practice yoga practitioner should try to avoid fish and poultry, and also try to eat only appropriate amount without choosing the particular menu. So when you enter into the yoga practice,
것은 직접 잡아서 먹는 고기. 그건 이제 먹지 말아야 돼요.
it goes the same even for the monks or even for the lay people.
명심을 해야 돼요.
So the meat that you shouldn't eat are those that you kill in order to eat. For that, you will have a direct cause and the effect. This is something you have to remember.
그것도 안 되고.
And also the meat that you request someone to kill for you,
삼가하라라고
and also the meat that's dead due to sickness.
수행을 하면서 이제 소화가 잘 안 되는 것들 갖다.
So here, when they ask you to try to avoid meat, the reason is,
또 이제
well, while practicing yoga, if you eat a lot of things that is not easy to digest, then it can make you feel sleepy, or due to indigestion, it could be difficult for you to sit.
그 명상 지관 수행을 할 때
And so this doesn't really help your practice.
영양 결핍이 하는 것은 또 옳지 않아요.
And also, when you practice the samatha and vipassana,
일장에서 얘기한
if you do not eat meat at all, then also it is improper to suffer from malnutrition due to lack of intake of the meat.
먹지 않는 것이
So those three things, if you kill directly, or if you request someone to kill for you, or if it's that due to disease, you should not eat the three different category meat, and that could give you a lot of lightness to your study.
할 때 이제
It's very important to eat appropriate meat.
몸에
So when you practice in a cave, the meditation, or even just the practice, depending on the condition of your body, it's good to control. So some people they take very minute amount of food. They do it in an extreme way so that your healthness doesn't support them. So there's a problem. And also for some others, there's a problem if they do not if they eat too much and they feel sleepy. So depending on your body condition, it's important to maintain your good conditions. For the practitioners, it is you have to maintain good physical health. So if you only take vegetables and if it harms your body condition, that's also a problem. But then if you only are persistent in eating the poultry, if you become fat or if you feel sleepy, that is also a problem. So you have to maintain healthiness, and at some part, if it lacks somewhere, then it's very important to control. If you are very persistent in terms of food, then it is not a very wise method. If you do this way, and also your mind should be clear and also very strong. Here, the mind is clear refers to you shouldn't have many complex thoughts, and also it helps your physical health. Therefore, you should try to avoid fish, poultry, garlic, or onion. There's a reason why we try to control them while we practice Samantha. amongst those five pungent vegetables or those things that we say, there are also some items or that encourages your sexual desire. That's why it's very important for you to know if you should take them or not take them, because if you don't take them at all, then maybe it could create problem to your body. So it's good to know where you are standing. While practicing, you need to take the food which does not cause you indigestion, but in fact helps your practice. So while the practice, there shouldn't be a problem if you eat too often or if you take the food at a too long gap. So first, what's here is you need to eat food that does not make your karma as a cause and effect. Well, for example, if you say you have to offer to the dead about you need to make an offering, but those at the time, if you have to kill something to make the offering, then it's better not to have that offering. For example, on the 80th birthday, if you are in order to have the party, if you're killing a pig to offer them a pork, then it's better not to have the party. But in fact, it's a party if you make the pig alive. So the essence here is the main point here is try to control your body and also body in a manner that it does not harm your healthness, or if does not bring the karma of the cause and effect. Well, but then if you take only the vegetables and if you have problem with your health and if you're not able to study, then that actually is more harmful. It's better to eat meat up to a certain amount, and it's better to maintain healthiness and do the practice. For example, if you eat too much, then it is difficult to stay awake. Well, if you eat too much food, especially at the lunchtime, if you eat too much, or if you eat a lot at the dinner time, then it is not a good eating habit. Likewise, sattva has to prepare both for the vipassana and samatha, the pre-preparation, and then enter into the practice. Also, while practicing, there's also a practice that you're not sleeping in the first of the night, and also the last of the night. Okay. Do we have some expression like this in Korean? What is the first of the night and what is the last of the night? This means we're not sleeping in the early evening, and also we wake up at early morning. While practicing, so even while sleeping, even in the middle of the night, we have to practice the condition of the recollection and also maintain a proper posture. So until early morning, early night, we don't sleep until like 9 o'clock. Normally, the pattern is so. We don't sleep in the early evening, and also we get up at early morning. This is a practice, also practiced in temples, and that's usually so to follow the schedule of the practice. So until the time that you sleep, you have to concentrate in practicing of samatha. And if you fall asleep, so then even your dream will proceed so, and even when you wake up, it will be the same. You can also continue the same state. For example, if you're thinking about something, then you're not losing the concentration.
완벽하게 다 부처님 경지가 되기 전까지는 잠을 자야 되는 게.
So this doesn't mean we are not sleeping, but
자는데 꿈 속에 혹시 그 밤에 꿈 속에
until you reach the state of Buddha, until you become complete, you have to sleep.
지금 내가 간세보살하고 잤으면 그 밤에
But the things that but your dream is actually a delusion. But if you even in your dream, if you are reciting the mantra of Avalokitesvara, then even when you wake up, it is the same. So you have to practice so. So when you're praying in the night, you feel that let us just sleep and stop. But then in the morning, then you're again like, shall you continue? But the thing is, you think about so many different things while sleeping, and in your dream you're being chased away or you're chasing something, and when you wake up, you feel like, what do you have to do? But if you have this kind of schedule, then even when you're sitting down, or even when you're praying in the middle of the day, all the different thoughts happening in your mind. Even with that in your mind, if you stop your prayer, then all the different thoughts or all the distortions start arising from you. So if you think that although you have been praying for 10 years, it's not very effective. But if you do it so, then it will not have so much effects. Even if you told me that you're trying hard, but it seems all the similar. If you do that, then it's all similar. Even when you pray, well, when you meditate and also when you pray for something, or you concentrate and you practice, but even when you practice, you cannot really have so much attention. If you leave away the sense of distortion or even the sense of delusion, then even if you're reciting Avalokitesvara for 30 minutes, for others, you have done it, but in your mind, you're actually thinking about so many different things. Your mind is so full of other thoughts, and it is very, very distracted. That is the reality. Isn't that so? So there isn't much that has been done. Every day, or sometimes because you're so tired, you're sleeping, and when you wake up, you find that you have been sleeping for 10 minutes, and at some other time, although you have done so, you think about things to do tomorrow. So outside, it feels like you have done something, but actually you have thought about something else. So it has to be one, that you're sitting down and also your thoughts. So you're sitting down like Buddha, and you're calling out for Avalokitesvara, and even in your mind you have to think about Avalokitesvara, and it has to be one, and it has to be in line. Then only the samatha will be practiced. But your mind is at different level, and your mouth is reciting something else, and also your posture is not proper. And if you do so, then although it is 365 days a year, you have done it for 365 days. But since the concentration is weak, the result that is being benefited from it is very weak. So your children, even if when you ask them to study, you give them apples and so, but they're sitting down and for a day, or even if you make them sit for 10 hours, or maybe outside, the body seems like they're actually studying. My child is sitting on the desk, but he's studying hard, but it doesn't really improve. I know how that works because the brain is so complex and there are so many things in the brain they don't really study. Normally, those people who study hard is not because they have good brain, but it's because of their concentration.
뭐야, 여성들은
Especially in Korea,
생각이 왔다 갔다 하는 게 너무 많아가지고 뭐 하여튼 김치도 담아야 되고 뭐 해야 되고 왔다 갔다 하는 게 너무 많아가지고
ladies they have so many different thoughts, like for everyday life, and people are very restless, and men they're restless because they drink.
남자들은 요렇게 왔다 갔다 해. 술
When I compare the ladies, they move in this way and men move in that way.
계속 그런 것 같아.
Because they drink, they go up and down, but ladies, they just have constant change of thoughts. And they're not able to concentrate well.
많다 그러는데 그런 꾀는 사실상 참깨보다 못해. 참깨는 그게 얼마나 고소한데.
And they say they're very cunning, but they're not very useful.
수없이 생각이 왔다 갔다 하는 것을 중생이라 그런단 말이야.
The thoughts which moves restlessly, we call them lay people.
채식만으로도 영양 섭취가 충분하다면 그렇게 하는 것이 아주 좋은 삶의 방식입니다.
If it's possible to get abundant nutrition only with vegetables, it is also a very good way of life. If it's possible just with vegetables, it's very good. But
영양 상태를 갖다 조절하려 그러면요, 조절하려 그러면 수행하는데 정말 옆에서
but if you want to control your nutrition level with vegetarian lifestyle, then while you practice, there should be someone there to constantly check upon you. Just because you eat vegetables, you cannot just eat any vegetables or rice.
칼로리 계산하고 영양가 계산해가면서 잘 옆에
At this time, there should be a very good control of the calories and also nutrition. And if there is no one who will be looking after your body, then it's very easy to get your body ruined.
되도록이면 적당한 양의 고기만을 섭취하는 것이 좋다. 그러니까 아까
If it's difficult to be 100% vegetarian, then it's good to take only a certain or appropriate level or amount of meat. I told you this many times, but even during Buddha's time, it was so. Those people practicing Hinayana, they're still begging for food, just like how they did in Buddha's time. And when the believers offer the food to the monks, at times there are also some meat, and when they actually put the food when they actually bag the food into the bowl, they never say, "Oh, I don't take meat" or "I don't take this." They just take as everything is given to them. And if you think about it, we can easily know. And even in some schools of Hinayana, they do not strictly ban meat, but they ban the meat that has been killed on purpose. Although you feel that Hinayana is very strict with meat, they are very clear in this regard. Most of the Hinayana, they follow what has been done in Buddha's time, so they do not say, they do not strictly ban meat, as far as I know. But we have the wrong knowledge in Korea, and there are some people who claim that this means we do not kill animals for in order for me to consume, and also I do not know well about that meat, and
어떤 고기인지
also I should take only the clean meat that has been killed for you or for myself without this kind of suspicion. At times there are meat you don't know where they're from.
라고 짐작되어도 그건 먹어서는 안 돼요. 인과가
And also at times you know that and also at times when you feel that or when you presume that that meat has been prepared for you or killed for you, you should not take it because there are also the cause and result. Normally in Mayana there are times we eat meat, but in sutras like Ibn it is very strictly forbidden to take meat. But on the other hand, in Acharya Bhaviveka, in that script, in the script it accepts up to a certain level. Even in Mayana, even in Pranya, it seems like they're banning meat, and also the three tantric practices, they strictly ban the eating of meat. On the other hand, in the supreme yoga level, they also refer to the meat of elephant or human meat, the horse meat or dog meat or beef. Where there are also sometimes there are also some races who ate meat, human meat before, but not nowadays. But even the dog meat, there are some people who took the dog meat before, but they don't now anymore. But the beef is influenced from India. In the practice of tantric, the 5 holy products of the cow, like urine, feces, milk, butter, and curd, unlike there are some cases where they took with the blood and also the sperm and also the flesh and urine, and with the feces they took as well. All these all these things here, since the custom is very different from here, I'm going to leave it here. They use them for the purpose of a special practice. Well, we do not have followers of tantric here, and this is a practice. This is the practice that they do in other form of Stoic Buddhism. So we are going to leave it here. But so normally, the consumption of meat should only be restricted in a common level, and also you should only take what you can purchase from the market. But you should not take meat that is purely killed for your purpose. It is preferred to be vegetarian, but if you are not able to practice vegetarian, or if your body cannot maintain its own healthiness, then it is not advisable to do so. So you should not go to the butcher and ask for what kind of meat, and also do not go to a certain place. But you should only take what you can take as a medicine for you. That's a common saying. Where here I translate as tantric, but it's actually the Stoic Buddhism. And also at times when you have to practice without meat, there are some special practices where you have to do it without taking meat. understand it this way,
특수한 수행 같은 경우 이를테면 무문관을
where the
하면서
special
이제
practices are
아주 깊이 한다든지
uh,
자비관을 할 때는
when you're practicing
무식하면서 할수
the
없다는
practice
거죠.
of compassion seriously,
갈 때라든지
then you cannot
이게
you cannot kill and
때는
practice the
그렇게 한다는 거죠.
practice of
그러니까
compassion.
몇
So
가지
when you're
두
actually
가지의 그런
practicing,
수행이
so
있으니까
it's one or
이제 그
two
수행을
of
할
those
때 그렇게
practices.
하는 얘기다 그러니 여기에 이제 육식 관계나 채식 관계는
And also the relation
이제
between the
그냥
meat and also the
이제
vegetarian, while it gets
이제
while Buddhism came
굉장히
to Korea
모든
through China, with the practice of Taoism, they said, do not take meat, and the and this kind of ideas were passed to us. But if you actually read the Vinayana, then you can know that it is a little different.
이제 먹는 것에 관한 먹고 입는 것에 관한 얘기를 갖다 이제 하는 이유가 이게 이제
The reason why we talk about what to eat and what to wear is because what we eat for the practice of samatha and vipassana, because they influence the practice of vipassana and samatha. As explained previously, those interested practitioners, before they practice samatha, they need to have what they require, and also they need to prepare the place where they will not be disturbed.
사마타 수행하는 것은 사실상 조금 이제 음식이나 이런 거 의복이나 이런 것도 이제 굉장히 예비로서 좋고.
So the practice of samatha, you have to prepare the clothes and also the place, and also you need to have a proper understanding and perception of the study.
또 이제 여기에 있어야 될 장소도 굉장히 중요해요.
But even the venue is very important.
한 2km 정도, 오리 정도 떨어지게.
And Buddha said about 2 kilometers from the castle, about the mountain, in the mountain which is about 2 kilometers distant, where the noise is not too much heard, or whether it is also good to go and even beg for food. And also for the reason that the mountain could be very dangerous. And even when you study, it's very important to have these preparations. And also when a practitioner starts practicing, it is also good to prepare the place. When you actually start practicing, they are very different from what you do normally. So if you get a little disturbance, then it is very difficult to practice. When the practitioner starts practice, they should stop everything they've been doing and also go to bathroom and also sit in a quiet place.
인도에서는 이것도 문제가 되는 거라. 왜냐면 토굴에 거면서 똥놀자를 아무 때나
where they become a problem. Well, if you're staying in the cave, you cannot just sit and go to bathroom anywhere you want. You cannot. Even the cats, they go to bathroom at a particular place. Well, actually, in India, it becomes a problem. Like in India, when they meditate, they go into the mountain. So they do not have a separate place for bathroom or for the meditation. to just sit under a tree and do a meditation. Well, not even in monsoon, but during the dry season. Because they do under a tree, they could have a problem with other animals. And even in places like Lumbini,
현장 스님 갔을 때도 또는 해초 스님이 거 갔을 때도 이게 도둑이
uh,
들고 호랑이가 무서워서 이 혼자 갈 수가 없다 그랬어요.
even
그러니까 굉장히 사실
even when Venerable Hyunjang or Hyunjae went to India, they could not. It was difficult for them because there are too many thieves and also tiger. And even in India, we still have a Bengali tiger. And even nowadays, about 80 people that are killed by tigers in India
명상하고 앉아
per year.
사실상 그런 위험한 같은
So the meditation and even when they are sitting down, there are many cases of danger.
바깥에서 그냥 그 배변할 때도 있단 말이에요. 다 그냥 일상적으로 바깥에서 배변을 하는 거예요.
And also there are many cases when they go to bathroom outside, just out in the nature.
그렇게 하라는 뜻이에요.
And you can't choose a place to meditate close to the place where you choose your bathroom be. So you need to find an appropriate place, and you have to think that I will lead all sentient beings to enlightenment. And while thinking about it, you have to think about great compassion, and you have to do ochetuji to all the to Buddha and also Bodhisattvas in all 10 directions. In Korea, we normally have the statue of Buddha, but even if you do not have this statue, you have to pay a salute to Buddha in all 10 directions.
일체 중생을 다 건지겠다는 이 생각이 아주 중요한 생각이에요. 그러니까
The thought that you are going to save all sentient beings is a very important thought. If I'm sitting here, I would become comfortable, or I would try to suppress my hurt. This kind of sentiments itself is not enough. You have to practice, or you have to meditate, thinking that you are going to save all sentient beings. And then you have to have Tenga or the picture with the Buddha or Bodhisattva in front of you. So in India, even in the mountain, or even if you have the picture of Buddha or you don't have the picture of Buddha, it's the same. So when you first pray, you have to imagine Buddha. The Buddha and Bodhisattvas are in front of you. You have to think about it. You have to have an imagination, and it's very important.
떠올리고서 이제 기도를 하고 명상을 하는 것이 중요하다. 이것은 보통 현교에서
You have to pray and meditate thinking about them. And this is also a practice that they practice in exoteric Buddhism, and this is but in esoteric Buddhism, they think first the Samayatava in practice of esoteric Buddhism, they imagine themselves as the Buddha, image Buddha. Well, first, what is Buddha Karma? I myself is the Shakyamuni or Amitabha or Avalokitesvara. You have to think that you yourself turn into them. And my body changes its form to Avalokitesvara. We have this in 10,000 Eyes and 10 Sutra. From our head, there will be a white light, and it will fill my heart and also my body, and it will be giving out all the rights of the emergency to all sentient beings. That's why we say
스승의 모습으로 나도 이제 차츰차츰
that's why we say I myself turn into the figure of the teacher and my leader. You think that sooner, gradually, I change into this form.
그래서 그 저런 몸의
And
이마와
in this form, you ask for the
두
teacher.
무릎이 땅에 닿도록 하는 전통입니다.
The prostration, 5 parts of your body, the forehead, 2 palms, and 2 knees. That is the custom. In Korea, we do uchi-tuji, but in Tibet, the whole body touches the ground. I don't think there is need for argument to argue whose method is better, the Korean or the Tibetan. The important thing is with happiness, you have to do it properly. While thinking, you should not think that my knee hurts, and if you don't, and also the imitating has no meaning. In front of teacher, to become like teacher, the whole body with a great light, you have to prostrate. It is also good. You should also put things which symbolizes Buddha's.
내 방에서 하더라도 꼭 부처님의 신구위를 대표하는 상징물. 우리 이제 신구위를 대표하는 상징물이 뭘까요?
What are the items that symbolize Buddha's spirit, and also the phrase, and also his dress?
불상, 이제 그 신은 주로 불상이나.
What are they?
그죠? 의는
The spirit is normally a statue or a tomb.
그 경장과 보통 그 3장 경률론 3장을 갖다가 안치를 하는 게 좋고 불상 안치하거나 또는 또는 탱화를 안치하거나.
So normally, it is good to have the Tripitaka or statue or tanga or a tomb.
지금 우리 불단에 모셔져 있잖아요, 그죠? 불단에 모셔져 있는 것은 대부분의 거기에다 맞추어서 이제 모셔진 거예요.
We have this in front of us
그대로 관상을 해도 좋습니다.
in the Buddhist altar, and that is in keeping with this respect. Or you can just imagine Buddha in the space. The offering is preferable if you continue in the way that you have done so far. Where it's because they do it all the time, but we do not do it. So what do we have to do? We do not do it every day. So in Tibet, everyone has this kind of Buddhist altar in Tibet, even personally or house, at their homes or in the monasteries. So when they wake up, they get fresh, but they don't really wash well because they don't have water in Tibet. So after washing their face or their hands, after they wake up, they offer the lamp or the tea or the scent, and when they offer food, they offer those which they were thinking of eating. So for if it's fruit, they offer to Buddha first. So it is a daily life for them to offer to Buddha. For them, it is a daily practice to pay salute or to offer to Buddha. It has become a special event for us, but for them, it is daily basis. It is also written in Diamond Sutra that It means the offering to Buddha has always been continued and it has never stopped. That means when Shakyamuni was alive, he was offered, and also it is not so, but even today, nowadays, without any break, I never stopped, I never rested offering to Buddha. But we offer when you remember, and when you forget, we stop. There are many things that we do in that manner. So when I went to Sri Lanka, it was so beautiful. Everyone who came to monastery, they take out their shoes. Well, since it's a one place, even if we ask them to take off shoes, it wouldn't matter much. But for us in winter, it could be a little difficult to take off the shoes. I don't remember whether it was a 15th day, whether it was a lunar, whether the full moon day, or the first day of the lunar calendar, but it is a day where everyone is wearing a white cloth and go to offer to Buddha. The adults and children, they all took the flower to Buddha, and they never plucked the flowers, but actually they picked it up from wherever it has fallen. Since it is one place, they have a lot of flowers that's falling off. And even the time of Buddha, at the time of Buddha, they never really plucked or cut the flowers to offer. So everyone brings flower in different forms, like necklace or just a flower, and they stand in a line wearing white clothes, and they come. The offering, it is a great connection. It's a very important connection that connects you to the teacher. And I hope this would also become a habit in Korea. But in Korea, since it became the teaching in speech, they somewhat, even the monks, they somewhat use it to operate the offerings. They use it to operate the monastery, and also the believers, they offer in expecting blessing in return. But this is not something wishing for luck or blessings. This is for the connection with the teachers. If you have abundant, then it is also fine to offer a lot, or else. But if you don't have a lot, then as much as you can, even just a flower itself is also okay. So if you don't have a statue or other things, you should not try to get it. So you cannot just give excuses that since you don't have a statue, you cannot study. Where it's almost like I couldn't study because I didn't have a book, and once you have the book, you cannot study because of your pencil, and then. But and in this way, you make up all the excuses not to practice. But if you want to practice, then you can do it. It's almost like in order to study, your study should not get disturbed because the preparation is too complex. Also, you should not use tangas which are not being sold in a proper, supplied improperly. But I think in Korea, I think there are many tangas which are being supplied in a wrong way. Well, here the here improper supply refers to maybe the tanga is not drawn properly, or Well, when we buy the tangas,
맞는 것이지.
uh,
이제 저 사람
we
태어나면 하라
actually
그러는데 몇 천만 원을
we pay them we pay them certain amount, but it is not because
돈으로 왔다 갔다
uh,
하는 것은 사실상
he,
또
even the person who draws the tangas are not trying to draw in order to make benefit out of it, but they just draw in also in order to study. And so even us who buy, we should not pay too much money in order to get it. Like you should not pay 10,000, 20,000 in order to do that. And also there are some cases where they say if the tanga is about 20,000, but actual price is about 5,000, but they actually put the 15,000 into their pocket. That is very bad. Also, the statue that we are building in other monastery, we build it. The statue, building statue itself is about $7,000, but inside, in order to fill the statue,
돈을 이를테면 뭐 1,000만 원 정도 다 처음부터 받아가지고 이게 그냥 그 이런저런 우신투신 다 됐다 얘기 아니고 불상값 딱 그렇고 그 다음에 그게 그 복장하고 또 점안하는 것은
the preparation of the Buddha statue it has a little different calculation. There is also the price of the buried treasure and also the praying and different things. So I told them not to put the price in a lump sum, but I told them to make the classification.
그런 것들이 전부 다 부정된 겁니다.
They are all the wrong methods. Even the painting of Dharma, they just draw it and they put it on the wall, saying that it blocks the water flowing down in your house. But how can it actually block? I don't really like it. Actually, it's not even a tanga, but this is just an artistic work.
산중에서 홀로 정진하는 수행자도 굳이 너무 많은 불상이나 장식을 소유할 필요가 없습니다.
Even the practitioner who is practicing alone at home, there's no need for you to have too many monuments or even statues. So when you're actually in the forest, if you have very expensive tangas or statue, there could be some cases of robbery. So when I went to Myanmar, I don't remember which Buddha, but because they have because they have put too much gold on his face, for about 100 to 200 years they have been keeping the practice. So the Buddha's faces become so fat, and also some Buddhas you cannot see the form because there are too much gold on their faces. The gold plating, which is so thin. But since the people in the village they're so good, and also because they believe in Buddha so much, they said some of the Buddha statues there are more than a few hundred kgs. And if there is some foolish person, they could think of trying to melt down the gold and sell it somewhere. But because there are no people who think about it in that manner, I thought this would last long. And although after many hundreds of years and thousands of years, it has lasted. But nowadays our world is a little suspicious and it is also harsh. So while practicing, if you have very expensive statue or if you have a gem, then if something goes wrong, then they will try to take it. And also those national treasures, they try to steal them. There are so many national treasures which were taken. Even other people's tomb. And there's so many things from the monasteries are being stolen. I think it is someone who became rich all of a sudden, and the person asked me to check an item, and when I went there, there were two Buddha stupas, and I said, "This is a grave of monks. You should not keep it here. Why did you bring the grave into the house?" This is something that was kept in the monastery after they were being cremated, and he asked what to do, and where did you buy it? And they say it was something. It is very good decoration of the house, and so I bought it. But I thought it was about 200 years old, and they just took it. They just stole it from the monastery and sold to some person who doesn't have much knowledge. And so I told him that it is a grave, and so you should not keep it in the house. So I told them not to make a stupa when I die, because someone might even take my grave. Even Buddha's relic tomb, I feel so bad about it because the Muslims, they broke it in 13th century. It was worse than what IS are doing now. They killed everyone and it was a chaos. They broke everything and they killed everything, and you could not even imagine. And I don't think there's no other religion other than Muslim which destroy other religions in that manner. I don't know with what rage they break off other people's religion. They are like savages in religion.
도둑들의 호기심만 자극할 뿐입니다. 도둑들의 호기심만 자극해서
It will only increase the curiosity of the thieves. So in monasteries, you have to do so that even if you open all the door, they do not take anything. There is nothing for them to take. If there is nothing for them to take, then it's very comfortable. Let's do until here, and we have two questions.
스님의 법문과 이게 질문이 한 가지로 잘 딱 집중이 안 되고 막 이것저것을 물어봐서
The question is not being centered to one, but as many different things. So
달라이라마 한국인 법문에서 사수가는 등등의 간센보살이 많이 등장합니다. 요 등장하는 것은요.
In your teaching, Avalokitesvara appears a lot. When we talk about Buddha or Avalokitesvara, the form of them, the form that appears, it is just an expression that in the teachings or in the sutras it has been taught, and you have drawn similar to them. So if we say the 10,000 hands, the hands 1,000 hands, the hands express or hands symbolize rescuing them or picking them, or the 1,000 eyes, that means seeing or understanding. So it means when you have like so many eyes or hands, it means it has great great potential or ability to rescue. And also, when we say many different directions, it refers that it's possible from all the directions. It doesn't mean Avalokitesvara has four hands. Wherever, all four directions, symbolic to that, we say four directional. So if we say we have built a statue in a special way, that means the great ability of them has been portrayed in different manner. It doesn't mean because they have 1,000 hands in the statue means it is more holy. Likewise, all the statues and tangas, based on the contents from the scriptures, they have tried to formulate a form, and for that they have made a statue or they have drawn. And therefore, doesn't mean in reality have 10,000 hands or 1,000 eyes. You have to know that they are a symbolic comparison. When Avalokitesvara was young, the stepmother left. Well, this is an old epic. The story of Avalokitesvara and Mahastama Prapta, the story that Buddha told us. The stepmother told in a very remote mountain, the name Potolaka. She threw both of them there, and while they were dying of hunger and thirst, he prayed that everyone who is dying like in hunger and also thirst like us, even if they just call our name, we will go there to help them. And with that ability, with praying for that ability through the rest of their life and also many different lives, they got many different abilities and power. And that is the story. And in Sokchon Monastery, Lamlim and also the way to Bodhisattva, you teach us. And also in Tibet there is Mahaka, and also in which region of Tibet did the Mahakala appear? And there are so many questions. What is Mahakala? If you are angry, then where would it be angry? So even our anger, we use it for the practice. So you are angry at the cause which has caused you anger. So in other words, in order to stop our agony, we try to have the sense of Buddhism. In order to stop our agony, we are angry about the agony, and we try to stop the agony. But we do not try to show the anger to the sentient beings. There is also the anger of Avalokitesvara, but it is not for the sentient beings, but for the fact that we have not been able to stop our agony, and also for this and also Magala the Sattva has achieved enlightenment in this manner. And I don't know the story about where it has appeared.
이름이 우리는 지금 대충 알고 계신 분이 4대 보살 이렇게 알고 계시잖아요. 그죠? 많아요. 준재 보살도
Well, there are so many different bodhisattvas, but uh, even the Kumgangsu Bosar is just one of them, and even Junje Bosar in Tibet they call Tara, and even in Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra, you have so many different bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are those who have practiced the Mayana and have attained a certain state or certain level. So they are practitioners on their own way. And although they have not achieved the state of the Buddha, but they have actually attained their own level as a bodhisattvas. Well, this is not a question, but after coming to Korea through Nepal as a refugee and got married to a Korean woman and running a business. But there was a big earthquake in Nepal, and if we could help them, because he escaped from Nepal. But this part, on Buddha's birthday, I think it could also be a good idea to raise some funds as a donation. In Nepal, what they show on TV, first it was about 1,000 people, but I thought an earthquake of 7.8 and also since I've gone to Nepal quite a few times, I think about 10,000 to 15,000 people have died. Honestly, the houses in Nepal, when I first went to Nepal for the first time in an airplane, I thought it was a Cheonggyecheon area in 60s. You know those houses where we put stair rods, a few of them, and just build a thin house? And the houses were so thin, and most of them were so that if earthquake hits them, they would break off. And also there are many houses which just built with bricks. And also the bricks, they do not have so much strength. If it shakes, they will all come off. And also in the mountains and in villages, well, it seems like they really have no strength at all. And because of that, only in Kathmandu, people who go to take the videos, or it seems like they were not even able to broadcast properly, even in the air. Well, Pokhara is the second city of Nepal, and looking at the condition that Pokhara's picture is not even shown, I think Pokhara is also destroyed. Because when I went there, it was also very poor. Most of the houses, I don't think it is even a state to talk about constructive methods. And the earthquake happened in the place which is about 80 kilometers from both Pokhara and also Kathmandu. And the earth shook about 11 kilometers beneath the surface. And 11 kilometers is, well, nothing, and they would have more effects. And the government, well, it was a kingdom until a few years ago, and the brother shot all 20 members of the family, and the younger brother became a king. And since he's the only person alive, he was actually chased by and imprisoned by the communists. And now he only has a small house and he's imprisoned there. And so the government itself is not a government. It changes in every 6 months, and they do not have the power or authority or money. And the religion also, they follow Hinduism, and the consciousness is also not very favorable. In Kathmandu, well, in the big city, they do not have clean water. In some places, the whole place was filled with garbage, and plastic bags were flying on and off. And
상수도나 하수도나 놓고 좀 그러지. 시이 알아서 해줄 거예요. 시이 뭐 하수도 공사.
well, when we questioned them about clean water, they said the God will take care of. But how can the God take care of putting the sewage system? And the thing that I felt most uncomfortable was the road. It is so very uncomfortable. The cars are not good, and the roads are also very dangerous. And they have also built temples there, and they would put 10 rupees there and also pray. And when I questioned them to fix the road, they say it is something that a God has got to do, and even the accident is God's area. But there is all superstitious. I cannot think of any other names for this, and I don't think there is much room for improvement. And I thought it would be very difficult for them to overcome the hunger and also the superstition. And the Buddhist followers there are Tibetan Buddhists, and they study hard and they build schools, and they also teach. And in those areas close to pilgrimage, they also try to take care of the place, and it looks very favorable. And also there are about seven places that has become UNESCO's treasure, and 4 of them got destroyed. And this story, the money that we can collect to aid, if we have an account with which we can send them the money, I don't think it is easy to reconstruct things that has broken down. But let's try to think what are the things that we can do to help. Let's end.